Good everyone. I hope you guys have an amazing day. So today I won't be doing any sort of Salesforce tutorial or anything to do with the certification for that matter. So today's video is mostly towards people who wanted to get into the Salesforce space. So I often get asked most of the times, right? What's the best way to get into Salesforce space? So I often get asked by people who are into management, who are into different technology, like for instance, C# developer, Java developer. Um, Sometimes I do get asked questions from a business analyst, sometimes from testers, that hey, Salesforce market is pretty hot, and I often hear that the kind of salaries people get paid is substantially higher compared to other technologies. So, what's the best way we can make a transition to the Salesforce space? So today I wanted to dedicate this episode especially for them, right? Now, if you guys are new to Salesforce, never heard about Salesforce, just to give you an idea, Salesforce is a CRM uh, application that's a customer relationship management software. It's a SaaS, that's the software as a service. But what that means is that you don't have to install anything, you don't have to pay for any hosting, you don't have to pay for any kind of a deployment. So everything is maintained and hosted by Salesforce. So compared to something called PaaS, that's a platform as a service, right? So now it doesn't matter, the technology you're from, or even if you're not a techie person, right? You can still get into the Salesforce. Now, the one thing I just wanted to let you guys know, right? Please do not get into Salesforce just because you heard it's the coolest thing in the market at this stage. People are getting high pay, high salaries. That should not be your motivation to get into any technology. Your motivation should be to know about the technology, to see the best you can, the best way you can make use of technology. Yes, I do understand Salesforce is very popular. It has infiltrated pretty much in every industry, starting from pharmaceuticals to telecommunication, to most of the government agencies, even to Ministry of Social Development, even the Ministry of Health, in different parts of the world, right? So it's an exciting time to be part of the Salesforce ecosystem. Okay, now I wanted to address this in two categories, right? First, I wanted to target people who are from non-technical background, and the second one, I will target people who are from a technical background. I might have discussed about this here and there in one of my previous videos, but that being said, I wanted to make it more elaborate this time. Okay. Now, the first question, right, before you get into any technology, you should be asking, right, where will I get the necessary resource, so that I can start looking into it, right? It's all about getting your hands dirty, but before that, you should know where to get started, right? That's the most difficult question for most of the people, right? Who are, especially if you're not in a tech space, right? So let's assume you are someone from a business analyst background, or you're a functional consultant, or you're a tester, right? Or even if you're in the management space, like a product management, or you're a support consultant, okay? Now, in Salesforce, we have something called Trailhead, right? So, if you're not sure about the Trailhead, all you can do, just go to your favorite browser, right? I use Chrome, so and you just type Trailhead. Trailhead, okay? I know it's a funny name, but okay. So there's something called Trailhead, the fun way to learn. The name itself is funny, right? The Trailhead. So in Salesforce, they make you learn things in a fun way, right? It's like you're playing a game, right? Where you win badges, where you win points, just to keep the things going, keep the thing exciting. Salesforce have come up with this platform, right? It's free to use. You don't have to pay anything. So all you have to do, just have to sign up, okay? Once you sign up, you will get something like this, right? Now, you must be wondering, right? Okay, that's great. Now, where do I start, right? Now, since we're talking about non-tech users, right? So I personally believe you should start from an admin point of view. Okay, because after all, you have to understand what Salesforce is all about, the things you can do with the Salesforce, the basic understanding of the platform, which is very important before you start, doing other fancy stuff. That's the You have to understand the fundamentals, right? The foundation, the core aspect. The security. What is a user? What is a company? So that kind of stuff you have to understand. Now, you must be thinking, oh, hang on, hang on. You sound like to me, something like a very geeky person because I don't know what are you talking about a company. So what are you talking about? So in Salesforce, right? Obviously, like I said, Salesforce is a CRM tool. Okay, so Salesforce is used the primarily when Salesforce was built, right, in late 1990s. They built keeping the salespeople into consideration, right? It's mostly for the salespeople at that stage, right? I'm not saying now. Now, like I said, it has been so the sales was expanded to pretty much different areas in the finance sector, telecommunication, pharmaceuticals, right? So you can see a lot of usage, and Salesforce have uh, a lot of other um, and Salesforce encourage people to build stuff on top of it. So we'll get into that. That's an exciting part, but let's stick to the basics for now. So, so you need to log into the platform, right? If you remember, I mentioned that Salesforce is a SaaS, the software as a service, right? Now, software as a service means you can go to a browser and you can log in, all right? Now, if you wanted to log in, you have to register for it, okay? Now, Salesforce have an org. Org is like an organization. Now, think about an apartment building, okay? So you might have seen apartments, right? An apartment building, like for instance, I live in New Zealand. I mean, when I used to live in Wellington, I used to live in an apartment. So apartments, say, if one building would, in each floor, you will have, say, three blocks, like three apartments, right? So that entire building, right? You can call it as a one single space, and each apartments, right? It's like a personal space. So that each apartment buildings, you can call it as an org or organization, right? Or in simple terms, you have a big building, big tower, right? Let's say in the United States you have a Trump Tower, right? In New Zealand we have, let's say for instance, a Deloitte building, which has other companies, right? So first floor is for X company, second floor is for another company, right? So each company, right, have their own space. So that space we call it as an organization. So that's what, in terms of the Salesforce space, we call it as an org. When you log in, right, when you register, right, so you will get your own space. So which we call it as an org. So you have your own org, everything to do with your org, your tables, your personal information, everything is kept separate. But, it shares a common space, right? Because the Salesforce is a multi-tenant architecture. What that means is that you will not get your own separate, building. So you will get a space in that building, like a first floor belongs to you, right? But you still share the same building. The same analogy goes with your org. So org space, the same, space, right? But you get your own, cozy space where you can do all the stuff you wanted to do, and the people belonging to another org will not have access to it. That's the easy way I can explain in terms of a layman terminology, right? So the first thing you need to log into an org, register for an org. Okay, so we go to developer.salesforce.com. Right now, you have something called sign up. Now, you must be wondering, hang on a second. You just now said, I'm not talking about the tech people. Why should I be registering for a developer.salesforce.com? Well, that's because it doesn't matter you are a techie or you're a non-techie. To register for an org to use Salesforce, this is the URL you have to use, developer.salesforce.com. So once you do that, you sign up, and it's free. Okay, so you don't have to pay for it. There are different licensing model, like you have professional, you have unlimited, you have enterprise. You don't worry about that at this stage, right? Because you're starting out for the first time. So developer.salesforce.com, sign up. Once you sign up, right, you want you to sign up, you fill all the information, your first name, last name, and the company name what you provide, right? That becomes your company information, like an org. Like I say, right, you occupy a floor in a building, right? And that floor is your org. Obviously, the floor will have some name, right? XYZ company or brewing company. So that company name, you put it here, and that company name actually becomes the name of your org, your company name, right? So, in simple terms. Then you have a lot of configured options that's been given to you by Salesforce just to make your life easier, right? So once the reason why I ask you to sign up for the org so that you can get your hands dirty. Now, when I said you can get your hands dirty, what I meant by that, you need to understand what Salesforce is all about, play with the platform, right? Because it doesn't matter you're a functional person or a technical person, you still need to understand what Salesforce is all about, right? And the best way you can learn about any technology just to get your hand dirty, right? So once you log in, so you will get, and then it will ask you to log in, okay? The best way to log in, you can go to login.salesforce.com. So, since you're learning, so, and then it's a login with the username and password. So the username, what you put here, um, this is your username, and then a password, right? So you log in with that. Once you log in, so you'll get something like this, right? Or might be different interface, right? And we have different options here: home, opportunities, leads, right? So these are kind of a different tabs, right? You go to leads. If you're into sales, you will understand what leads are all about. If you're not into sales, don't worry about it. I will share with you a resource which you can go through and read about it. Okay. So this is how an interface looks like, right? You can do a lot of things. I do understand that. If you're new to it, you must say, "Oh, this is too much," right? I do understand Salesforce has a lot of functionalities, but don't worry about it now. So now, how to get started, right? So you're on Trailhead. I will highly encourage you to type for admin or okay. So when you get type admin, you will get admin advanced, admin intermediate. So go to admin beginner. Okay. So go here. And so you will get different trails. So all of these things, go each one by one, right? So let's say start with this. Go to get started with the Salesforce platform. Start reading about it. And at the end, you will ask you to do some kind of quizzes, right? Or ask you to practice it. Once you, excuse me, once you practice it, you will get certain points. And as you advance towards the next stage, let's say you completed, you cannot go to, you can go to the next stage, that's fine. But if you ask my opinion, I would highly encourage you to finish each one by one so that you and spend as much as time you can, so as much as you want, so that you get a proper understanding of the platform. And once you finish with all of this, right, then I would highly encourage you to go for admin intermediate, right, which is a step above, right? And once you go into admin intermediate, you will understand all more about the automation side of things. And it will ask you to even build an app, which is very fantastic. It's a very interesting app. I would highly encourage you to check it out. And once you reach that stage, and please do not skip it. And after that, it's time to go to admin advanced. You see the points here, right? So you will, if you finish all of this, you will get all of the points, right? So that's the beauty of it. And so advanced formulas, even monitoring. So once you finish this, right, you'll get a fairly decent understanding about how things are working, and there is something called certification, right? So you can go for Salesforce admin certification once you are comfortable with it. And it's the best way to, give you that confidence that, oh, you can answer certain questions, you can, work out a few scenarios, and even showcase to your company, the future company, that, hey, I got an admin certification, so I can start as an admin. Now, you must be wondering, right? Okay, that's great. How long it will take for you to learn, right? I'd say it depends from person to person, right? If you have never seen Salesforce, I would say if you study, say, 2 to 3 hours every day, within 3 months, you will be fairly comfortable to go and take Salesforce admin test, provided if you study 2 to 3 hours every single day, including weekends, right? Because the thing is that you need to understand the platform very well, and Salesforce admin certification is, covers a lot of things, right? It talks about, I'll show you how to go to the certification site in just a second. So that's the one thing, right? So you are a functional consultant, you are a tester, you are, business analyst. So this is the perfect pathway, I would say, to get you started to the Salesforce. Once you are comfortable with it, I would highly encourage you to join the user group, right? Say, for instance, if you are in the United States, I'm pretty sure there are different user group, right? Maybe Boston user group, maybe Texas user group, or maybe New York user group. All right. I mean, you just have to. You can go to the LinkedIn, right? That's another way. Or if you want, there are other resources you can study. You can go to Udemy. People do make admin course, right, for certification. If you're comfortable, from that perspective, you can do that. Or you can also go through YouTube. There are a lot of free YouTube channels teaching you admin certification. Um, so that's one thing. And or if you're in New Zealand, right? Because I live in New Zealand, so I can tell from New Zealand. In New Zealand, we have different user groups. We have Wellington user group, we have Auckland user group. I'm a member of. I do attend sometimes Wellington user group because I live closer to Wellington. Sometimes, I mean, I'm planning to attend Christchurch whenever that happens. Auckland is before. You can attend even if you're from overseas. Sometimes I do attend Australian one as well. Um, but if you're in New Zealand, right, you wanted to um, prepare for certification, if you wanted to get that, you know, edge, where someone can teach you. There is a person called Amber Joseph. I brought her to my podcast, so I will link. I'll put a link in the description below of the podcast. I would highly encourage you to check it out. She's an awesome trainer. She does a lot of admin stuff. So if you're in New Zealand, I would highly encourage you to check it out. Or if you're in Australia as well, right? So that's one thing, right? Now, I spoke about the certification, right? So what you can do, so you can do type for Salesforce certification, right? Um, so this is it will take you to certification here. So you see there are different pathways here, like Salesforce administrator, architect. Don't worry about the architect; it's pretty advanced. Go to Salesforce certification, right, and start with administrator, right? Click here. So if you're not sure about the content, right, so you can always go for study for prepare for your Salesforce administrator. You can go here and then follow the path trail, right? It covers pretty much everything you wanted to know. I mean, even though if you're taking course, right? If you're taking, say, for instance, if you are seeking the help of an instructor, I still encourage you to please go through the trailhead and do hands-on. It's very important you guys do the hands-on, right? At least to understand what it's all about, because sometimes muscle memory plays a very important role. You believe it or not. So once that's done, you can go to web assessor. That's something called, you have to create a link in the sort of web assessor. So you can, before I talk about that, so when you come to this page, right, administrator, there's something called Get the Exam Guide. Click on that. It's important. Read through it. Now, certification, I teach people certification, right? If you've been following along, or if you're new to me, new to listening to my channel, I mean, I don't usually promote my channel. I don't say to people, hey, come and subscribe to my channel. It's your choice. If you want, if you like it, if you want to subscribe, it's your choice. I don't go and tell people, right? If you like it, stick around. Um, Salesforce Administrator. So this is a place where you can get more information about the exam. It's usually costs 200 USD. It's a worth investment. If you really wanted to get into Salesforce space, I would highly encourage you to take the admin certification. Many people will say, "Oh, it's not required." Don't listen to them. I personally believe it's the most valuable certification out there if you're starting out. So you can go to, so the passing score is a bit higher, 65%. It's a 60 multiple choice question, so you'll be tested on scenarios. Sometimes you get two choice to pick, but at least they will tell you, right? In a question, pick two, pick one, rather than letting you guess whether it's two is correct or three is correct. So that's a bit more flexible, and there is no negative marking, right? If you make a mistake, they won't detect the mark, so that's pretty cool. And if you fail the test for whatever reason, right, you can retake it, and it will not show in your certification that you failed in the first time. No, they're pretty chilled out, right, when it comes to that. You can go to an online center. You can go to an testing center. That's proctored exam center, like in New Zealand, like in Wellington, we have. I often take in Wellington if I have to, but these days because of COVID, I prefer to stay home and take the step test online. It's more convenient, right? So, and the training and resource, you can do that, and you can read about this stuff, right? I'll put the link in the description below. Don't worry, right? Okay, now once you've done this, right? Now you must be wondering, okay, what kind of job I'll be getting it? Okay, that's a very good question to ask, right? Right. So mostly it depends, I would say. Most of the time, it depends upon your previous experience, I would say. Let's say you are a consultant, right? Say you've been consulting, you're a consultant on, say, SAP or any other ERP. Most likely, you will be moving into consulting space. Instead of SAP, you will be doing a Salesforce consulting. So that transition will be very easier, right? Um, I'll tell you my example, right? I started as a developer, right? I've been programming, not into Salesforce space. I'm started my career as a developer. I started with the C, then I did Delphi, did a bit of a Java, then mostly C sharp. Then I joined a consulting firm for ERP consulting. And there, I've been lucky to get involved with the Salesforce. So I moved as the lead technical consultant. So for me, I didn't start as a junior. I started as a, senior consultant. So then I moved as an architect. Um, so if you're in consulting space, right, if you're a functional consultant, it's easy for you to work in a Salesforce consultancy space. The only difference is that, you will have to juggle a bit to understand, from a Salesforce perspective. You will already have a consulting experience, so you don't have to worry about that because you'll be doing the pretty much, you've done the consulting. It's pretty much the same, right? Or writing RP, writing statement of work, taking workshops. It's pretty much the same. There's no difference. Okay, so that's from a consulting perspective, right? Let's say if you are new to job industry altogether, you're someone who just recently graduated. Say you're a law person, or you are a, say, accounting person who wanted to get into Salesforce. There are different options. You can get into consultancy. Uh, have a look at Big Four. They do hire graduates, right? They get into the consultancy space. Or you can work for a vendor. You can start as a Salesforce admin, where you will be involved. If you wanted to get into in-house, right? So, for instance, let's say a power company has their own in-house Salesforce practice, where you're not giving consultancy to anybody else. You're doing configuration, you're doing administration for that same company you work for. So basically in-house. So you have that option. Or if you wanted to work for a big four or any consultancy, they obviously send you to the client place. So that's another option, right? Or if you don't want Salesforce at all, you just wanted to understand, you're a product manager, you wanted to, lead a team of a consultant, that's good as well. But you still need to understand a bit about Salesforce. So having that admin certification will really help, because at least you can speak the same language what your consultants are speaking, right? It's like if someone comes to you and say, "Hey, I'm having an issue with this flow, so I think it might take, a couple more days." But if you're a project manager who has no clue what flow is all about, you will say, "What is this flow?" Right? So, it will help you understand, right? So or if you are a tester, okay, that's another opportunity. You can uh, work from a user perspective. Yeah, you can be an end user, right, where you're working on a technology and someone develops it, and you test the functionality from a user perspective, right? So when you are doing something from a user perspective, you have to understand what Salesforce is all about. If you do not know what the heck is Salesforce, then you will say, how do you create an account? How to create a contact, right? So you need to understand that. So having that admin degree will help. Okay. Now you can also get into specialization, right? You can become a specialized in certain space, like you can be a CPQ specialist, uh, you know, or you can be a marketing cloud specialist, or you can be, field lighting specialist. You can be service cloud consultant. There are different opportunities, right? So all I'm saying, right, if you're a non-tech person, there are a lot of opportunities which you can use, which you can make use of in Salesforce space, right? So yeah, that's from a non-tech perspective. I'll discuss the salary part and other stuff at the end. Let me cover the tech perspective now. Now, all of you tech guys must be eager to say, all right, this guy talking too much about the functional space. All right, the technology, what I meant by, you could be a developer, you could be an architect, solution architect, um, automation tester, right? Someone who writes automation scripts. You wanted to get into the tech space, right? Where do I start? I will repeat the same thing what I said for the functional people. You should have a proper understanding of a technology, right? The platform to use. So I would suggest you start with admin first, because you should know, you know, about the functionalities that is available in the platform, right? Because the reason why in Salesforce is promoting its platform as a low code option, right? What that means is you don't have to code for most of the things. So if you do not have an understanding about the things, right, about a platform, you will recommend a solution which is really not, won't be a great solution. Like for instance, there are a lot of things which you can do using flows. You don't have to write a code. So if you do not understand how flow works, you might say, okay, let's go the Apex route, which may not be a great option because of the maintenance overhead. Also, at the same time, you might say, okay, a functional consultant might say, okay, let's use the flow. Now, if you understand the limitation of flow, you can say, no, I'm not comfortable using flow because of XYZ reason. Let's stick to Apex because of bulkification or whatever. So having that platform knowledge is very important. Right. Now, once you do that, I would suggest you to go for a certification called Platform Dev One. All right, let me Platform Developer One Salesforce Certification. Okay, so go to Trailhead, or you can Google it. Right. So this is a certification. I would suggest you to go for it. Go to the exam guide and try to understand what all the things they expect you to do. Right. The first thing I'll tell you that you need to have a good understanding of Apex programming language, which is an object-oriented programming language. So unlike if you're someone who's been programming in C sharp, right, or Java, it's a little bit different, right? Because in C sharp, um, you can compile locally, right? In Salesforce, right, Apex is a cloud-based language, so Everything gets compiled in the cloud and gets stored in the cloud, right? So that does not mean that you can't build the software locally. Well, that means that you can still use Visual Studio Code to code and push the stuff to the Salesforce org, right? And Apex is pretty much like C Sharp. The only difference is Apex is case insensitive language, unlike C Sharp, right? So, um, one of the things I struggled when I moved to Apex, right? The consistency of the cases, right? Because in C Sharp, you mention it one way, intelligence, you use it, and, case will be the same. Now in Apex, right, capital Y and the small y, they're treated as the same. Whereas in C Sharp, it's not the case. Same goes with the Java. But if you are comfortable with C Sharp or Java, you will pick up Apex. It's just a matter of a few days, right? It's not big, right? So if you understand design patterns, if you understand a lot of code separation principles, then it's pretty easy for you to do everything on Apex. Then you got another technology like LWC, which is more about building the web component. So you need to have a strong understanding of JavaScript, HTML. So you're good to go. I do talk about these things. If you're following along my channel, or if you're new to it, just search for my channel. I've talked about Platform Developer 1 certification. I've talked about it for free. You know, most of the people I've spoken to, they've taken my course, right? And which is free, right? And they cleared the certification without any problem, right? So I try to cover pretty much everything. So if you are someone who wanted to go for it, just go for it. Or you can go to my platform, inspirateSolution.com, right? So, and go to courses. Now, you will be surprised, right? You must be thinking, oh, this guy's selling his course. I'm not selling my course. Go here, Platform Developer 1, it's free. If you're new to Apex, if you're admin who wants to get into Salesforce, Apex, it's free. If you wanted to understand how to refactor a code, you can take it from here. It's free. If you wanted to understand a trigger, different frameworks, you can do that. It's free. If you wanted to um, study the design pattern, you can do that from here as well. It's free. So all you have to do is just enroll it. Just log in here. So when you go to log in here, right? Um, so you can log in using your log in with Google or LinkedIn or Salesforce. I don't really recommend you to register it because in today's time, right, it's better to use your own social sign-on because then you don't have to remember the username and password. You can use either of it, right? So, and then use it. So go there, log in. Then once you log in, go to the course and then start learning it. It's pretty simple, right? Right. So that's if you are looking for someone who can teach you. And like I said, I don't charge any money, right? I mean, I only charge money when it comes to architect course because it's difficult course to make. So, and plus, my company is mostly non-profit, right? Inspire Solution is a non-profit. I do charge for architect because I have to pay for the hosting. That's the only reason why I charge for it. Otherwise, I would have made it free. So, yeah, okay. Sorry, I digress. Now, you can go to, like I said, you can start Platform Developer 1 is important certification if you wanted to be a developer, right? So you need to understand LWC, you need to understand Apex, you need to understand a better way to write a code and when not to write a code, right? Now, you can be a developer, you can be a Salesforce developer. I would highly encourage you that if you are a developer from C Sharp, work if you wanted to get into Salesforce, get in as a developer. Don't try to get in as an architect. Because if you get in as a developer, you will understand the nitty-gritty stuff. What is a batch class? How to set up a schedule time? How to create a queuable Apex? How to do a bulkification? How to write a trigger? If you have a good understanding of it, right, it's easy for you to architect a solution. You can also look at other developer option, like you can be a CPQ developer, you can be a marketing cloud developer, you can be a velocity developer. These are industry. Velocity is an industry cloud. Not many company uses it though, right? It's a niche tech. But that being said, in Salesforce, the Service Cloud and Sales Cloud are the most important one. Now, if you must be wondering what the heck that is, right? So these are the cloud offerings. You when you log into Salesforce, right? Okay. So when you go to this TikTok icon, you see service. That's for mostly for the service industry, and the sales, right? Sales mostly like you have leads, accounts, contacts, right? So that kind of stuff. If you are running a contact center, you will normally go for the service, like where you customer can submit a case, and then you can do all of the stuff, automation behind the scene in just a minute. You can learn all of this, you know, using Trailhead. But when you study for your admin certification, you will understand what is Sales Cloud is all about, Service Cloud is all about, what is forecasting. So you will not find whatever I'm saying a bit intimidating. So I do understand it's a big investment. Investment is in the form of your time, right? And if you spend 2 to 3 hours, right, don't watch Netflix for 3 months, right? Just focus on Trailhead and get your certs, and then easy transition. Okay, that's good. Now coming to the job market, right? Um, yes, it's true that Salesforce pays for a lot of money. I'm telling from a New Zealand perspective, okay? I do not know anything about the United States. I cannot say anything about India. I cannot say anything about Scandinavia. So my apologies. I can only talk from New Zealand or from Australia, right? Because we are pretty much related, close to each other. Australia paid a little bit higher than New Zealand, so I'll stick to New Zealand, right? Uh, okay. If you're a junior consultant, right, you can. I mean, I don't know how to put it this way. I don't really want to speak about the salaries because then that might offend some companies saying, "Hey, how can you say about the salary?" I'm just saying a range. Okay, I will give you a range, right? Because I don't say, okay, this company pay this company. I'm not going to say anything about that. If you're a grad, okay, if you're a grad, your salary could start anywhere from 50K to it can go even up to 80K, okay, depending upon your interview performance, depending upon how good you know Salesforce, depending upon the kind of companies, right? So 50 to 80K. If you're an intermediary, it can go from 70K to 110K. I'm talking about, okay, now you must be wondering, all right, what kind of job is it? Is that a functional role or is that a technical role? Or I'm talking about from a technical role, okay? If you're a developer, and if you're a senior developer, you can go from 110 to 150K, okay? Sometimes even 180K I've seen in some places. So I'm saying that's the max range, right? You can get from 110. Some companies will pay you very less. Some companies willing to pay you very high salary. So it all depends on companies to companies. Functional consultants, pretty much the same. Can go up to 140, 150, right? So similar ranges, you can say, right? If you're more interested, there is a site called in New Zealand, right? So you can go to seek.co.nz and let's look at some example, right? This is a New Zealand site, right? And so you look for the Salesforce, right? All right. So let me work out the pay, right? Let's say 150K to 200K. You must be wondering, see, you get a lot of contract jobs, right? And there are a lot of contract jobs you can do, right? So this one, senior Salesforce, maybe 150 plus. I do not know. So something like this, right? So you just have a look at it. And again, when you look at one thing, I just wanted to tell you, the most mistake most people do, they comes from a say .NET technology, right? And they look at it. Oh, I'm a senior developer. Okay, this guy get 180K. I will get 180K. Not really though, because you're looking at the max end of the spectrum, and it's the rarest you will get this much money. You have to be really, really good to showcase in the interview. And if you've never seen Salesforce, I don't even think they will pay you 160K to begin with. You might have to start as a, yes, they will hire you as a senior developer, but you will get put mostly at the bottom pile of the senior developer, right? A starting salary of a senior developer if you wanted to, um, unless you have a Salesforce experience. Because you know when somebody advertise a senior developer role, especially in Salesforce space, they expect you to have a Salesforce experience. But for me, if I wanted to hire somebody, I don't care. You're a C# developer. If you do not have a Salesforce experience, it's okay. I mean, I'm willing to consider that, but I'm not willing to pay you the topmost pay what the Salesforce developer can make, because they brings in the wealth of experience. So it's the mindset of a business owner, right? I'm a business owner. Although I do, non-profit, I do hire people, and and it's complicated, right? And I do nanotech stuff as well, so that's a different beast altogether. So we'll talk about it eventually, right? So what I'm trying to say, and why I'm trying to say this: do not get into Salesforce just for the sake of a salary. You will fail big time. I've seen people try to, I've seen functional consultants trying to become a developer because someone, I don't know who tells them that, oh, they will make lots of money, and they end up in doing so much of mistakes. And I've seen people getting fired even in the New Zealand market space because of the bad performance. And one thing you have to understand, right, especially if you're in New Zealand, we are a small tiny country. It's a small market space. If you get fired, people will get to know anyways. If you muck up something, it's a small place, and the news spread. Once the news spread, right, you'll lose the credibility in the market. So I'm not saying that people don't mistake. It's okay to make mistakes, right? If you are a functional consultant, once you get into development, that's fantastic. But get in the right way, right? You cannot expect, you're right, if you're making 180K as a principal functional consultant, you will make 300K as a principal technical consultant. Both are different skill set. It's like saying, look, I make, say, 300K as an architect, then I should be making, say whatever, like, half a million as a neurosurgeon. I have freaking no idea what the neurosurgeon does, right? So, I know it's a bad analogy, but you get what I mean to say. Now, then we have someone called Salesforce Architects. Architects do make a little bit more higher salary depending upon how good as an architect you are. Usually, if you're, and I've seen so-called Salesforce architects, um, who can't architect things, right? And it's just embarrassing. Sometimes, I've seen people come up with the solutions, and I just like, hang on a second, what this guy's even talking about? Because it's like an abuse of a Salesforce system I've seen in an architecture space. I mean, fortunately, I work with great architects. I work with the talent. I never had a chance to work with a bad one, but I've interacted with few, right? Because I'm a part of, architecture working group. So I do get to, sometimes I've reviewed few designs in the past, and I just tell you, it's horrendous. That's the best word I can use. So, but fortunately, I work with amazing architects, even in my previous job, even my current job. So, fantastic. My boss, he's a CTA, so he's pretty skilled. So, we have no issues on that perspective. Fortunately, my team is extremely talented team. So, I'm fortunate that I always had a privilege to work with a great team. I'm pretty sure even you guys do as well. So, okay, now this is from a overall from a Salesforce perspective. Now, I do often get asked questions from people from overseas. Hey, what's the best way to get into the country? I do understand that people wanted to come to, say, for instance, I'm talking from a New Zealand perspective. Okay, I'm not talking from a other country perspective, but I can't speak uh, on base of immigration. I can't speak on base of any companies, but I'm just telling you my personal opinion. I often seen people reach out to me and say, "Hey, what's the best way to come to the country?" The first thing I always ask, "Do you guys have a visa?" And when they say no, I mean, I don't understand. What do these people think, right? I mean, are they expecting the people to give you a red carpet, because you are just because you're in Salesforce? We have Salesforce people in our country, and what benefit do you think an employer will get hiring somebody from overseas and pay the same salary as a local person gets in the country. First of all, they have to juggle through the visa hurdle. Second is a cultural, you know, fit kind of problem, because obviously if you work with a Kiwi will understand a cultural outfit of another Kiwi, right? Um, so unless we are extremely shortage of talent, it makes total sense, right? But people do have an impression that, okay, I'm in Salesforce space, I can, get into, say, for instance, New Zealand in a very short span of time. That's not how it works. It's not easy to get into New Zealand as people expect. I can't talk anything from an immigration perspective. I'm not an immigration advisor, but I'm just saying, getting into any new country is not a cake. It's not a piece of cake. It's not a easy journey as people expect. There are a lot of hurdles. Companies have to apply for the visa, and if you see, I run a company. I don't hire overseas candidates. When I have to hire overseas candidate, I prefer them to work in their own country. Yes, companies do outsource because of the cost price. So, it makes total sense. You hire somebody from overseas and keep them there. If I have to bring somebody here, I might as well hire the local person, right? Think about it. Unless you are coming up with a cutting edge technology, right? Nobody in the planet has that skill set. Then yes, it makes total sense. Company will invest thousands of millions of money to bring you into the country because you have that cutting edge advantage which no one else on this planet has. But till then, I don't see. I mean, I don't know. I mean, some companies might think, okay, it's a better way, but the reason why I'm saying it, right? You have to figure out yourself, go to the immigration website and see whether you really qualify for it. And the best way, in my personal opinion, when somebody reach out to me, right, I point them to New Zealand, this job site, and I say apply, right? Who knows if some companies might be willing to hire you. So because I can't, and they reach out to me and say, can you refer me? I can't refer you guys, to be honest, because it's pointless for me referring, right? In the place where I work, we don't hire overseas people. I mean, even if I refer to my boss will say, okay, is that person in New Zealand? If no, then my boss will say, I don't have time to look into that. Or he might say, okay, I mean, it's just a waste of my time and his time. So, no offense, right? I mean, if you're in New Zealand, right? Yeah, then please reach out to me, right? I mean, if you're looking for an opportunity, I mean, if you're struggling to find a work, reach out to me. I will see what I can do, right? We can probably, I have a few contacts, I can refer you to them. But if you're not in the country, I can't do anything. Even if, okay, if you're not in the country, if you hold a valid New Zealand visa, let me know. I will at least pass on your information to someone I know. But I can't guarantee you that you will get a job. But at least I can do my job to pass on information because it makes me sound legit, right? Because I can't recommend somebody, who don't have a visa because the next person will ask, hey, do the person have valid New Zealand visa? If I say no, then they will. The next question they will say to me, why are you wasting my time? So yeah, you know, this is what it is. All right. I mean, I know people might get offended, but you have to live in the reality. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk. So yeah, so I hope you guys find this information useful. I know that it's been a very long episode, but I thought I might as well cover, right? So that being said, I hope you guys have an amazing Sunday. And if you're a Jewish like me, happy Passover. Or if you're celebrating Easter, happy Easter Sunday. Adios.